okay, so now I'm going to drive out of Boston into Salem. I don't know how big of a city Salem can, be free to do it, instead of being like an elitist. And it's like, it's the idea, just it's a self-created kind of fallacy, because it's kind of a funny line that I would say, like, if you it's when you stop trying that you actually get things done, or it's when you give up, right? Holding an objective standard of value, true standard of value. You just give up and realize people don't care about that. People don't value that. People wouldn't appreciate that anyway. People wouldn't understand it, right? They don't care about that. Everything's selective, non-basis, self-dependent, over standard pretense. So when you realize that, then you just do whatever. Kind of like this in a way, like, oh, I don't care if it crashes. I don't care. Like, you're just kind of doing it. So there's a form of concession in that, like, you're giving up. You're giving up by doing it, because you're entering into, like, the social contrived mind can do. So what is going on? So that's the thing, is like, you give up trying, so then you just do stuff just to do it, right? Just do it and then see what happens. But there is a concession in that, because then you're like saying, well, what you're doing doesn't really matter, and you're doing like a subversive state and competing over something halfway. Big deck energy. That's kind of funny. Hey Asher, how's it going? So what happens is, just you get caught in the trap of basically, I had another way to explain that too, but just you kind of give up, therefore you now start trying, or you just kind of do stuff and enter into sort of the fray, even of that subversive state. So how else can I explain it? Just either you realize, but see, that's the concession too, that's the problem. You can see the non-value subversive state, like what people value is just kind of random and arbitrary and superficial, and there's no real standard behind it. But even as you recognize that, okay, fine, so just enjoy it or just whatever, but then there's no basis for structure. There's no basis to say, to be told what to do, to be inhibited, to be restricted. It's all just random and arbitrary, and people will find selective pretenses to justify anything, as we see throughout history, as we see throughout different places. So in other words, it doesn't matter, because, right, like, oh, you'll use the Crusades, or you'll use God, or you'll use whatever pretense you got to use, right, to justify whatever it is that people are going to do. Even today, like force, and we're fighting for freedom, but it's really for oil. It's like, that it's all BS, but yet you go along with it anyway. And so that issue raises the fact, because that's usually what people say, right? It's an incomplete observational basis. They'll say, like, oh, what's the meaning of life? Or the meaning of life is such and such. But they're missing one part of it. The part that they're missing is, like, oh, let's say there is no meaning to life, right? It's just zero sum. You're just trying to fulfill, because, like, let's trace it back. This is like a great evidentiary basis, right? Everything that you would say has meaning would be something like that. That's like non-choice reaction, zero sum mean needs. Like, oh, it's about eating good food, but eating food is just something you have to do to survive. It's something that animals do, right? So there's no special meaning in that. It's just like, it's a zero-sum process. Or, just, or like, it raises the issue. The thing is, I actually liked Boston, though. It wasn't too bad. Actually, not a bad first experience in Boston. I didn't really do much here, but those tunnels kind of cucked your ability probably to see it, because it kept crashing the stream. I should leave my mobile data on just in case, but you would think that wouldn't work either. But no, what happens is that it's just the basis that you're ruled by. So, you're like, how can you treat people as credible or take them seriously when you look at what they value? They value random things, arbitrary things, non-value. So the only basic value is the non-basic self through some social contrivance gratification. But the problem is that then it's arbitrary. It applies to anything, everything, right? It's just sort of non-accountable. So you use a pretense but not an actual standard. That's how people operate, right? You use pretenses but not standards. And the reason why is because they're selective, they're myopic, they're not consistent, right? Therefore, they're not credible. The problem is that nobody's really holding it accountable to be credible. They're just kind of doing random stuff. And so this will be our last stop on the way to Maine, which is that's the main destination. That's the main event. Logan Airport, 90 East Way. I don't get it. What? I don't get it. Why is it saying here if... So you have to hold people at a credible basis. So the problem is the personalization that's used sort of as a coping mechanism. Like, it'll be about the person asking the questions or observing, but at some point the human mind is objective. So pretend, okay, there's a human brain sitting on a table, and it doesn't matter whose it is, or if you want to go into cult of personality, okay, it's Albert Einstein's brain or it's Socrates' brain, right? We somehow go in for stuff like that. It doesn't matter whose it is. Anybody's brain is capable of asking the same question or observing the same reality. So it doesn't matter at that point. So now you're going to use a standard and say, what is the standard that your life is based on? And then you'll try to answer that. This is a great questionnaire sequence. What is it based on? And you'll answer. But then it'll be inconsistent, your answer. It's the same thing you could do with religion, where you could tear it apart without really saying anything, without making a claim, without having any incentive. You have nothing against it. It's just like, you're just asking questions. But by asking questions, you're revealing the sort of... by asking questions, you are revealing its own internal contradictions. So that's why the burden is on the claim maker. Like, you're saying what something is about. And the whole problem with that is the outward insistence fallacy. And the reason why is because when you have outward insistence, like telling other people what to do or expecting something from other people, you can't even define your own measure, what your own life is about. You're inconsistent with your own criteria, right? Let's even say that with religion. Even Christians will say, oh, everybody's a sinner, we're sinners too. Well, if you are, then what credibility do you have to tell other people what to do, right? And you might think that's, hey, Ryder, how's it going? Now you might say, well, that goes against what I was saying before, like, oh, anybody can be objective and have standards. But there's a difference between that and assuming the intent of others and telling them what to do, right? You can tell them what to do by your standard, but how do you know that's their standard? Like, there's too many assumptions like that, especially in the modern machination process, overextended empirical basis, like what it is that you need. How can you tell a person, like somebody living in a tribe, right, in a minimalistic way, you would tell them, oh, they should do this or they should do that, but how can you say that, right? And so that shows you the lack of objectivity and how it's totally not credible, the society, modern societies that people live in. And the reason, no, I'm not a cop, why? The reason why is because, like, the thing is that oh, cool, you're one? Nice. So Oh, this is gonna destroy my Starlink. It's stopping at a red light under a bridge. No, it's gonna crash. But no, the thing is, what you have is the ability to recognize that, you know, if you leave that, like, let's look at it this way. People pull. Sorry, I'm not familiar with these roads, obviously, so let me get on a straight path. Or apparently that was the wrong way, but I don't get it. Oh. These directions are so unclear. What the fuck? Oh my god. Yeah, we got a cop stream sniping us so they can watch us break traffic laws, even though I'm not really doing that on purpose. But, like, dude. Shots fired. Okay, the point that I was saying is that I wonder if anybody's gotten in trouble under that context, like somebody, like a streamer, I shows feed or somebody and they do something and then they get in trouble on it based on the fact that they were streaming. Some people got shut down like that on that basis, like somebody, Kai Cenat or somebody goes to New York City and they, you know, bro, I don't know where I was supposed to go there. I have no idea. This is the problem with stuff like this. There'll be only one way to go where I'm going. Like, just get me out of Boston. That's all I want. I don't even care. Like, you get me out of here, and then I'll figure it out. Like, fuck. But no, you have to acquiesce. So yeah, that's the problem. There's no basis for your society, and here's why. Somebody living out in the woods, in the jungle, fending for themselves, doing what they're doing, you would look at them, oh, they're uncivilized, but they're just free. They're not indoctrinated, actually. Or, oh, they're you know, lazy, but yet they're fending for themselves and they're doing everything related to their survival. And you're indulging in exuberance. And, oh, they somehow lack ability, but actually they're not as possessive and materialistic and selfish as you, right? So which interpretation is it? Like, as if somebody couldn't be that way by choice, right? Couldn't do that by choice. Right, so it's not telling you to do that. Never is a tribe telling you that, you know, okay, somebody in a tribe isn't coming to your city and saying, you should live like this, you should do this, right? They're not doing that. But you would be out, like, and again, their influence would be relatively small. They're a tribe living in nature in a small area, but you would infringe upon everything by your exuberance because, you know, you support the companies and the corporations and everything that will pollute the environment everywhere, that will monopolize resources in the environment everywhere, that will overextend its influence everywhere, right? Building cities and all these kind of things. So that's the difference. It's not about what's right or wrong or whether you should do it or not. You're outwardly insisting upon them. They're not doing that to you. So they don't need credibility to be a minimalist or to be at peace with what they're doing. But you do need credibility to outwardly insist, but you don't have it, right? So that's why it's always done by force and then reinforced. So upon any objective observation, you would realize not that, oh, what you're doing is wrong, right or wrong, but what you're doing is not absolute, exclusionary to everything else. And there's no basis to outwardly insist upon it. And so that allows you to see through the facade of a lot of things, right? So a lot of what people do in terms of appearances and whatnot is just like, so we're doing the same route again, and I'm kind of pissed because that GPS wasn't clear at all what I was supposed to do. But I guess we don't. It looked like I was supposed to turn, but I guess we don't. But no, it's like you appeal to appearances, but it only to the uninitiated. Only people who don't think appeal to appearances. So it's kind of like, right, if everybody's aware of that, then they wouldn't care either. Or it's a situation where, you look at things, right, the absolutist kind of objective observation, and it's like, you might see everything. You might be at peace with everything, but people are not at peace. They're not aware. They're insecure, they're possessive, they're selfish, they're non-basic self-insistence, they're, So that's like the limiting perspective, right? You would look at somebody and see everything. You would see their infinite mind, infinite potential, but they would project some incentive, they would project something onto you. And so that's the difference, is like they see only the stimuli acme projection or zero sum means, whereas you might see everything. Because the hell, what, bro? And this is when the traffic isn't really that bad, right? This is just like a low traffic kind of day. But I just don't like it. I mean, the city driving, like, I'm not used to it, but I'm just like overly cautious. Like, I don't care. I'm not in a hurry, but I also, people define themselves by certain things, though, that way, like I was saying, by appearances or by the stimuli acme. And so it allows you, like, how are you gonna make this thing if there's no arrow? I don't get it. But yeah, you'd see everything, but it reflects back you see everything or you see nothing. And either way, like, you're neutral, non-performative aspect, non-social contrivance, whatever. You see that, and then it's like, but they see back or project back only certain things. And the reason why is because right, the reason why, okay, let me look at this, because I don't know what happened. So you go here, it must be that way. The reason why is because, again, they'll project something specific, a non-basis self-insistence. So, like, it's this ego basis by which you're actually controlled, but it's a trap to think that's your basis of value. Because it's like, this competition hierarchy kind of thing that you get trapped in society. Is kind of like, what if you just don't care, though, right? Like, you're competing for this or that, but you lack the ability. But what if you don't want that, like material things? Like, what if you genuinely just don't care? And even folly favoritism takes on a form of that. Like, you're happy just, somebody's fiction and lost in games and stuff, movies and shows and stuff. At least that's a form of that, because it's like, it doesn't really cost that much to do that. So you're kind of happy with just, that sort of imagination and in the mind and stuff. So that's different than, oh God. Yeah, let's see what this is going to be like. Salem. And there's another Salem that's like